Okay, first off, I just realized on my sheet I wrote weeks 3 and 4, but it's actually weeks 4 and 5. Anyways, I worked at ASD on Monday, September 9th, 2013, in the art class from 8 to 3:30, being a total of 7.5 hours. Tuesday, September 10th, in the art class from 8 to 3:30 for 7.5 hours. Wednesday, September 11th, in the art class from 8 to 3:30 for a total of 7.5 hours. Thursday, September 12th, in the art class and downtown to the Arkansas Museum from 8 to 3:30 for a total of 7.5 hours. And then Friday, September 13th, in the art class from 8 to 12 for 4 hours. And then a meeting with Eddie from 12 to 2 for a total of 2 hours. For week number 4, that would equal a total of 36 hours. In regards to this week, we worked on puzzles. The students were taking different colors with chalk, pastel, crayon, and paint, and they were drawing a design on 4 different sheets of paper, and then cutting out different shapes and or puzzle pieces, and then putting the different colors and texture type objects together via paint, pastel, color crayon, or whatever they chose. They did that. The elementary students worked on thumbprint paintings, and that was the shape of a circle, basically. Kind of like an oval, but more like a circle is what she was aiming for. And they made 3 flowers using their thumbprints, and then a sun and a bird and a cloud. And it was really interesting. I learned a cool way to make a bird using your thumbprint. You do the thumbprint for the body and the pinky for the head, and then draw the wings and the beak and the little feet. A lot of the students wanted a lot of help with that, and some did it on their own, but the majority wanted help. And then in regards to the flowers, depending on if they wanted to pay attention or not, they did the flowers correctly, but the majority of them did not do the same as Elizabeth's example. They also finished up the high school kids finished up their scavenger projects, and then they started on their form project, making 3D shape, which they were making a house with a tree. And so they used basically 7 5-inch by 5-inch squares, and then on two of those squares they cut in half and made triangles for the roof. That was that. And then on Tuesday, Elizabeth was sick for a little bit, so Darlene and I were both in there, and we said we would volunteer ourselves to kind of be like a little aide while she went to the nurse's office, since she wasn't feeling too hot. And that was during the thumbprint project. So basically we would help any students with their project if they needed it while she was gone. We didn't mind. Like I said, we volunteered ourselves. On Wednesday, we continued working on the house projects with the high school students and the middle school students. But with the Wednesday group, they were still on last week's elementary school project, which was in regards to the shape of a triangle. And one student there who is deaf and legally blind, we tried to ask Elizabeth if she had any shapes of triangles that she could just trace around instead of doing the triangles on her own. And Elizabeth found a triangle, And so she was tracing it, and Elizabeth made a little side comment that that was cheating. So we tried to explain to her that it wasn't cheating. Sometimes a little help is necessary with children with disabilities, and especially with added on disabilities. That you're not helping her cheat. You're basically helping her succeed, being able to do the project and do it to the best of her ability. Whether or not Elizabeth understood that, who knows. I learned a couple of new signs, like an exemplary person, special person, and then an exemption, to exempt, I excuse you from this, exemption. On Thursday, Darlene and I had a little bit of a different day. We went to the art museum downtown in Arkansas, the Arkansas Museum, and we had a very interesting detour at first because we thought we were just going there, but for some reason they decided to drive to North Little Rock, and we were confused as to why. But they were taking them there to see the actual Little Rock, which turned out supposedly was not there. Darlene and I just waited outside our vehicles and talked while they did the little tour of that area. They told us they would be brief. They had hired an interpreter for that day, so that they would be brief, and then they would be getting back on the bus to go to the museum. When we went to the museum, they split us into two groups, and they viewed 4 different houses. And one group went one way and the other group went the other. And Darlene and I took one group, and we basically tag teamed or team interpreted for that group about the 4 houses and the history of the houses. And as far as that experience went, it was awesome to get to team interpret, and I didn't feel under too much pressure. Parts of it were very difficult in regards to the names and some of the history, since I didn't know it myself. You can only interpret what you understand. But, for example, in regards to the houses and the people that own the houses, their names, I would fingerspell a certain way. And then after she was done talking, I noticed, like, as we walked by it, that there was a sign with that person's name on it. I was like, I wish I would have known that name first. Then I would have fingerspelled it correctly. But that's something that could be changed later. There was a couple of signs that didn't come to me right off the bat, but Darlene was able to help me. For example, like New Orleans. It just wasn't clicking, and she showed me, which was very helpful. We did one of the places we went were the grog shop, and it was very cool and interesting to see the students. They wanted to know, like, where are their showers at? Where are the bathrooms at? Where did the children sleep? And I think the woman who was doing the presentation and bringing us around to the different houses was very thrown for a loop. She wasn't expecting those type of questions. She was just like, this is what I'm presenting. This is what I'm talking about, the end. But she answered their questions to the best of what she knew. And Darlene, her turn, one of her turns was with a woman in slavery. And so I learned the sign for slave is this, which I had not remembered. But I felt for Darlene, and I felt for the woman, because the woman was speaking really fast. It was one of those frozen texts. She had practiced and rehearsed it so many times, she had it down to a specific way about it that she wanted. And Darlene asked her, first off and foremost, she could slow down, because she was already going 90 to nothing. and she did, but then that threw her for a loop, and she started getting like tongue-tied or twisted on her words. She didn't know how to do that, and because it wasn't her normal tone of pace. But the students themselves, they were more interested, like in, she was washing laundry and they wanted to know how she did it, so she brought a washboard out and showed them, and they were very fascinated by that. So sometimes these kids don't need all the, or I don't feel that they need, maybe they need it, but they're not very interested in the fact of the history part. But basically the examples, the more visual things, that's what they were fascinated with. Not the fact that she had an accent like she was from way, way long ago and was part of the slaves and slave trade and things like that. I did the print press guy, and they were interested to know where the quill feather for the ink pen came from, and what other types of feathers you could use, and what kind of ink you used, and who were the people that were sending off these letters, things like that. Which the guy that was presenting that particular thing in that house was very willing to go into as much depth as he could about the topic at hand. Later on Thursday, hold on, I'm going to stop it for the next video.